So you know that feeling, right? That giant task is looming, and you find yourself doing anything else until the very last second. Yep, we've all been there. We joke about it, we call it procrastination, but what if it's not just a bad habit? What if it's actually a clue to something way deeper going on? Okay, let's really get into this because this question right here is the whole ballgame. For decades, we've treated procrastination like it's some kind of personal failure, a lack of willpower. But the latest research? It tells a completely different story. Today, we're going to peel back the layers and see what's really happening in our minds when we choose to delay.
And look, this isn't just a small, quirky thing we all do sometimes. The scale of this is wow. A full 50% of university students are chronic procrastinators, half. We're not talking about a tiny problem here. This is basically an epidemic of putting things off.
And the consequences can be absolutely heartbreaking. This isn't just about missing a deadline. Just listen to this story about a man whose procrastination didn't just hurt his career. It literally robbed him and his partner of precious time they could have had together before he passed away. It's a powerful reminder that this isn't some harmless quirk. It has a real human cost.
So, if it's so harmful, why on earth do we do it? Well, the most common answer you hear is also the most wrong. So let's start by totally dismantling the biggest myth out there, the idea that procrastination is just being lazy.
Let's be super clear on this. Procrastination is not a time management problem. In fact, poor time management is just a symptom of procrastination, not the cause. Trying to fix it with more to-do lists and fancy apps? That's kind of like trying to fix a leaky pipe by painting over the water stain. You're completely missing the real issue.
And it's for sure not about being lazy. Laziness is apathy, right? It's not wanting to do anything. But procrastinators, they're often incredibly busy. Suddenly, it's the perfect time to deep clean the house or finally organize that spice rack. They'll do literally anything to avoid the one big thing they're supposed to be doing.
Okay, so if it's not about laziness and it's not about time management, what in the world is going on? Well, the answer isn't in our calendars, it's in our feelings. At its heart, procrastination is all about emotion.
Researchers have a really specific definition for this. It's not just delaying something. It's the voluntary choice to put something off, even when you know deep down that it's probably going to make things worse for you. So the real question is, why would we consciously make a choice we know is going to hurt us?
And boom, here's the answer. We're not trying to avoid the work. We're trying to avoid the bad feelings that come with the work. That anxiety, that self-doubt, boredom, frustration, maybe the fear of failing. Putting the task off gives us this little hit of relief from all those yucky feelings. It's a mood fix, a coping mechanism, not a character flaw.
Now, this gets even more interesting. Research has found a really clear link between how we feel about ourselves and how likely we are to put things off. So let's walk through how this all connects, especially when it comes to things like school or work.
It all starts with the word we know well, self-esteem. This is your big picture feeling about yourself, your overall judgment of your own value as a human being. It's that general sense of, am I good enough?
But then there's this other, more specific kind of confidence, and it's called self-efficacy. This isn't about your overall worth, it's about your belief that you can pull off a specific task. Like, can I actually write this paper? Or can I really pass this exam? It's your confidence in the moment, for that one job.
So check out how this chain reaction works. A study from 2017 found that low self-esteem is kind of the starting pistol. That general feeling of low self-worth then trickles down and poisons your belief that you can handle a specific task. That's your self-efficacy taking a hit. And what happens when you don't believe you can do something? You avoid it. You procrastinate.
And this is the key takeaway, really. Low self-esteem doesn't just flip a switch and make you procrastinate. Nope, it works indirectly. It whispers in your ear that you're not good enough, which then makes you believe you can't do the task at hand. And that belief is what triggers the procrastination. Self-efficacy is like the critical domino in the middle. Okay, we have to add an absolutely crucial piece to this puzzle. Because sometimes what looks exactly like procrastination on the outside is actually something totally different on the inside, especially for people with neurodevelopmental conditions like ADHD.
So, procrastination, as we've seen, is an emotional move. It's a choice to delay something to get away from bad feelings. But with ADHD, you often have what's called executive dysfunction. That's a neurological challenge with just starting things. It's not about avoiding feelings, it's that the brain itself is struggling to fire up motivation and attention. It's the difference between saying, I don't want to do this, and I literally can't get myself to start.
This quote just nails that feeling of executive dysfunction. It's not about being unwilling, it's about being unable. It's this feeling of being frozen, where you know exactly what you need to do, but your brain and body just aren't on the same page. That's a whole different ballgame from classic procrastination.
So, if procrastination is mostly an emotional problem, then guess what? The solution has to be emotional too. It turns out that beating ourselves up is the absolute worst thing we can do. It's time to try something different, a more compassionate approach.
First, let's talk about what's a total dead end. Shaming yourself? All that does is add more negative feelings into the mix, which just fuels the fire. And we've already covered why focusing on time management misses the point entirely. These common fixes don't just not work, they actually make the problem worse. So what actually moves the needle? Well, the research points to things that cut those negative emotions off at the knees. Acknowledging that you're struggling, forgiving yourself for putting it off in the first place, and trying to find some personal meaning in the task. This isn't about being lazy or letting yourself off the hook. It's about creating the right emotional state to actually get started.
And this isn't just some fluffy, feel-good idea. It is backed by solid research. Studies show that people who practice self-compassion after they procrastinate are actually less likely to do it again on the next task. Kindness isn't an excuse, it's a strategy. It cuts down on the shame and guilt, and that, weirdly enough, is what boosts your motivation to try again. So, let's just end with this thought. In a world that's obsessed with productivity and hustle culture, maybe the real solution to one of our biggest productivity killers is the most counterintuitive thing imaginable. What if the secret to actually getting things done isn't to be harder on ourselves, but to finally learn how to give ourselves a break?